My wife cheated with her boss, and just before our divorce, she secretly transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to his wife's account. Now she's refusing to return a cent, claiming he manipulated her into it, and that I have no right to the property or money after 15 years together. I never thought I'd be the guy to get like this. But here I am, sitting in my living room trying to piece together how everything fell apart so fast. The thing is, I always trusted Sarah. She was the kind of wife who seemed perfect on the surface, beautiful, smart, the kind of woman everyone admired. We'd been married for 15 years, and honestly, I thought we had a solid life. But then, out of nowhere, I found out she was cheating on me with her boss, Mark. And not just that, she secretly transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to his wife's account just before she started packing her bags to leave me. The money thing hit me hardest. I never saw it coming. How could she do this? How could she betray me after everything? It started with little things that I brushed off. At first, Sarah's phone always seemed to be in her purse more than usual. She was secretive about her texts, always quick to change the subject if I asked about her day. She became more dismissive, snapping at me over small stuff, acting like I was annoying her just by being there. I thought maybe she was stressed at work or overwhelmed with the kids, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The final straw was when I noticed her bank statements. I was going through our joint account online, just routine, really, and I saw an unusual transfer. It was for $250, $0 made just days before she suddenly said she wanted a divorce. That was a punch to the gut. I froze. The transfer was to an account I didn't recognize and it was under her name, but the details showed it was connected to Mark's wife, Lisa. I couldn't believe it. I pulled out my phone and started digging deeper. That's when I saw the emails, flirty, suggestive messages between Sarah and Mark, talking about their secret meetings, plans to spend time together, and even explicit talk about sex. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. How long had this been going on? How blind had I been? I always thought we were solid, that we had a good life. Turns out she was lying right to my face for months. I confronted her that night. I told her I knew everything. I expected her to deny it, maybe get defensive, but her reaction was something else. She looked me in the eyes and told me I was imagining things, that Mark was just a boss who was helping her with her career, and that I was paranoid. She said the money was a mistake, that maybe it was a loan or a misunderstanding. She swore she loved me, that she'd never cheat, and that I had no right to be suspicious after all these years. But I saw the lies in her eyes. She was lying, I could tell. Her voice was trembling, but she was trying to act like she was the innocent victim. That's when I knew this was bigger than I thought. She wasn't just cheating. She was sneaking around with her boss, and she'd stolen $250,000 from us to fund it. The betrayal cut so deep I felt numb. I was angry, devastated, and honestly I didn't know what to do next. After that night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around the same questions. How long had she been doing this? Was I blind all these years? And the worst part, what am I supposed to do now? Sarah kept insisting it was all a mistake, that Mark manipulated her into the affair, that she didn't mean for the money to go missing. She cried, she begged, she even accused me of not trusting her, of being paranoid, but I wasn't buying it. I'd seen the messages, the transfers, the way she lied about her whereabouts. There was no way she was innocent in all this. The next day I started digging. I needed answers and I was going to get them. I hired a private investigator to follow her around. I needed to see where she was going, who she was meeting. It wasn't long before the pie came back with some shocking details. Sarah had been sneaking out late at night, meeting Mark at hotels, even going on trips with him. All the while she was telling me she was working late or visiting her sister. The investigator also uncovered that she'd been funneling money through multiple accounts, probably to hide the transfer, make it look less suspicious. The evidence was piling up and I felt like I was losing my mind. How could I have missed all this? Meanwhile, Sarah kept up her act. She'd come home, act hurt that I was questioning her, and claim she was the victim of some awful misunderstanding. She told me Mark was just a work friend, that she was under a lot of pressure and made a stupid mistake. She insisted that the money was a loan she was going to pay back, that she was going to fix everything. But I knew better. I had seen the emails, the transfers, the hotel receipts. It was all there. And yet she still refused to admit the full truth. Instead, she turned everything around, accusing me of being controlling, jealous, and paranoid. That's when I realized she was trying to gaslight me, to make me doubt my own instincts. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. After 15 years, I was sitting here, feeling like a fool. How had I let this happen? I'd always been the good guy, the one who worked hard, paid the bills, kept the family afloat. And for what? To be betrayed by the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew. It was like my entire life was crumbling around me and I was just standing there helpless. That night I sat alone, going through our bank statements again. I couldn't believe she'd taken so much money and thought she could get away with it. I felt a burning desire for justice, but I also knew I'd have to be smart about this. I couldn't just confront her again without evidence. I needed a plan. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, and I definitely couldn't let her keep that money. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial, and that made everything worse. I was angry, yes, but also determined. I was going to find a way to get that money back, to expose her, and to make her pay for what she'd done. This wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was about reclaiming what was mine. Over the next few days, I threw myself into planning. I knew Sarah would be trying to cover her tracks, so I had to act carefully. I started by contacting a lawyer, someone who specialized in financial crimes and divorce. I needed to understand my rights, especially with that huge transfer of money. The lawyer told me that legally, that $250, $0 was considered joint property since it was transferred from our joint account. That was a relief, but also a warning. Sarah would fight like hell to keep it, claiming she was manipulated or that it was a gift or some kind of mistake. Still, I had the evidence now, and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me out of my rights. I also reached out to the bank to freeze any further transfers. The bank was surprisingly cooperative once I explained the situation. They confirmed that the transfer had gone through, but I had the right to dispute it. I also learned that Sarah had set up multiple secret accounts, probably trying to hide the money. I got access to some of those accounts through my lawyer's help, and that's when I started uncovering even more lies. She'd been transferring small amounts over time, probably trying to avoid detection, but the trail was there. I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and anger. She thought she could outsmart me, but I was steps ahead. Meanwhile, Sarah kept up her act. She'd come home, pretending to be the victim, crying about how unfair everything was, how I was ruining her reputation. She kept insisting she loved me, that she never meant for any of this to happen. But I saw right through her. I knew she was just trying to manipulate the situation, to make me feel guilty so I wouldn't go after her. She even accused me of being controlling for wanting to know where she was. That was rich coming from her. She was the one sneaking around, lying, stealing money, and trying to pin it all on me. I decided I needed to confront her face to face. I arranged to meet her at a neutral place, her favorite coffee shop. I wanted to see her reaction when I laid everything out on the table. I brought the evidence with me, screenshots of the bank transfers, emails, hotel receipts, everything. When she saw the folder, her face went pale. She tried to deny it at first, but I cut her off. I told her I knew about the affair, the money, the lies. I told her I had hired a pie, that I was going to take her to court, and that I wanted the truth. Her eyes darted around and she started to stammer. Then she finally broke down and said she was trapped, that Mark manipulated her, that she was weak. That's when I realized she was trying to spin a story to absolve herself. She claimed Mark was the one who convinced her to transfer the money, that he'd promised her a better life, a way out of her misery. She said she didn't want to hurt me but felt helpless. I was furious. I told her she was a liar, that she'd betrayed me for months, that she'd stolen from us, and that she was going to pay for it. I made it clear I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. I was done being the naive husband who trusted blindly. This was war, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. After that confrontation, everything changed. Sarah's facade cracked completely. She started to lash out, calling me paranoid, crazy, and controlling. She insisted that Mark had manipulated her into doing everything, said she was just a victim of his charms and that she was too weak to resist. She kept crying, begging me to understand, but honestly I was past caring about her excuses. I knew her game now. All those years of her pretending to be the perfect wife, the caring mother, all of it was just a mask that she dropped the moment she thought she could get away with everything. I decided I needed to act fast. I contacted the bank again and filed a formal dispute over the $250, $0 transfer. I also scheduled a meeting with my lawyer to discuss the next steps, divorce, obviously, but also how to recover the money. I told Sarah I was going to take her to court, and that I was going to expose her to everyone, her friends, her family, anyone who would listen. I knew she'd try to spin it as me being jealous or possessive, but I didn't care. This was about justice. I'd been betrayed at every level and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. I kept thinking about all the years I'd spent building our life together, only to find out she'd been cheating, stealing, lying. It was like a punch to the gut every time I remembered her smile, her kisses, the way she used to look at me like I was her everything. Now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd used me and then discarded me like trash. I felt a strange mixture of sadness and rage. I was angry at her, but I also felt this deep ache in my chest, knowing I'd lost someone I loved. I also started to realize that I wasn't just fighting to get the money back. I was fighting to reclaim my dignity. I didn't want her to think she could walk all over me. I wanted her to pay for the years of lies and betrayal. I also knew I had to prepare myself for what was coming next, court battles, her trying to twist the story, her trying to manipulate everyone around her. But I was ready. I had the evidence and I had a clear head. I wasn't going to let her ruin me, not without a fight. As I sat there in the dark, I made a promise to myself. No matter what happened, I'd come out of this stronger. I'd rebuild my life, even if it meant starting over from scratch. I'd learned the hard way that trusting blindly can get you hurt, and that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. But I also learned that justice matters, and I was going to see this through to the very end. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I worked with my lawyer to prepare all the documents, bank statements, emails, hotel receipts, everything that proved Sarah's betrayal and her attempt to hide the money. I also hired a forensic accountant to trace all the transfers she made through those secret accounts. The more I dug, the clearer it became. She'd been planning this for a while, probably since the affair started. She thought she could cheat her way out, manipulate everyone around her, and walk away scot-free. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Meanwhile, Sarah's attitude shifted from defensive to outright hostile. She started accusing me of everything, saying I was controlling, that I didn't love her anymore, that I was just trying to ruin her reputation. She told friends that I was paranoid and jealous, that she was the victim. I knew she was trying to spin her story because she realized I was serious about taking her to court. She even threatened to sue me for defamation if I dared to tell anyone the truth. It was all part of her game, but I refused to be manipulated anymore. I had enough evidence to blow her entire story apart. One afternoon, I decided to confront her again. I told her I was done playing nice, that I had all the proof I needed, and that I was filing for divorce. I also made it clear I was going after the money, and I wasn't going to stop until I got every cent back. Her face twisted in anger, but I saw the flicker of fear behind her eyes. She knew she was cornered. I told her she could either come clean and face the consequences, or keep lying and see everything fall apart. She snapped at me, calling me a heartless bastard and saying I was ruining her life. But honestly, I didn't care. I'd been betrayed enough. I was done being the forgiving husband. As the legal process kicked into gear, I felt both relief and dread. I knew she'd fight tooth and nail to keep that money and to tarnish my reputation. But I had the evidence, and I had my lawyer. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her, just to make sure she wasn't trying to hide anything or make a run for it. The more I learned, the angrier I got. She lied to me for years, stolen from us, and now she was trying to manipulate everyone around her. I realized I'd been naive, trusting her blindly, but I was also determined to see this through. In the end, I learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and the importance of standing up for yourself. I never thought I'd end up in a situation like this, but I'm glad I found out the truth before she managed to destroy everything. No one should be betrayed like this, especially not after 15 years of marriage. It's a hard lesson, but one I'll carry with me forever. And I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar knows. Trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't let anyone get away with stealing your life, your money, or your happiness. The court date finally arrived and I was ready. All the evidence I'd gathered was laid out clearly. The bank statements, the emails, the hotel receipts, the forensic accountant's reports. I could see Sarah's face tense with anger and fear as the judge reviewed everything. It was satisfying to watch her squirm, knowing how much she'd lied and manipulated. When the judge ruled in my favor, ordering her to return the money and granting me the divorce, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The betrayal had cut so deep that even victory couldn't fully mend the wounds. After the final judgment, Sarah's attitude shifted again. She tried to spin it as revenge, calling me a vindictive bastard and claiming I'd ruined her life. But I knew the truth. I knew she'd betrayed me, stolen from us, and lied to everyone she knew. I also knew I had done everything I could to fight back, to protect what was mine, and to hold her accountable. The money was returned, and I was finally free from her toxic grip. It wasn't easy, but I learned that sometimes you have to stand up for yourself no matter how hard it gets. Now, looking back, I realize how much this experience changed me. I used to believe in the fairness of life, in justice, in the idea that good always wins. But what I learned is that sometimes you have to fight dirty just to get what's rightfully yours. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you love most. But if you stay vigilant, gather your proof, and refuse to be manipulated, you can come out stronger. I'm rebuilding my life now, focusing on myself and my kids. The pain will never fully disappear, but I've learned to live with it and to trust my instincts from now on. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, and don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. The worst betrayal can be turned into a lesson in resilience. Life's not about avoiding pain, but about learning how to rise above it. And I can say honestly, I am stronger now because of everything I've been through. I may have lost a lot, but I also gained clarity, courage, and a new sense of self. That's what truly matters in the end.